Hi, I'm Rigger, this is You're Right, and today we are continuing with more Avatar. This time, we're on episode 12, The Storm. Before we get into it though, be sure to like the video if you like it, share it if you think others would like it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want to see more. Last time, there was a great divide between some people, and they got over it. Now, we apparently have a storm. We will see how that goes. As usual, this is just the intro, don't want to take up too long, so I will see you on the other side. Alright, and that was The Storm. What an episode. This one felt like an epic. Did this episode go on for an hour? It feels like it did. Well, this was the flashback episode. This was the Aang flashback episode and the Zuko flashback episode. So, plot-wise, Aang's having nightmares. They are out of food again, so they need to stop at a port. With no food, Sokka takes a job with a fisherman who his wife is demanding does not go out because she knows there's a storm coming, and he says that's ridiculous because the conditions are lovely. They go out on the storm, and the old man, before he leaves, berates Aang for being the Avatar. He was abandoning the world for 100 years, look how bad things are. You weren't there when people needed you. And this is really getting to him, because a lot of the imagery we see in his vision matches in his dream. So, you know, there is the fact he literally drowns at the end of it, but also, you know, before he frees himself in the ice, but also, you know, drowning under the weight of responsibility and all these things. So, Aang runs away while in the village to a little cave to brood, and Katara goes to follow him. And while in the cave, the huge storm hits, they light a fire, and they talk around the campfire, with Appa there as well. And then all this runs simultaneously with Zuko's story, where Iroh equally senses a storm coming, and Zuko says it's ridiculous because the conditions are lovely. And Iroh suggests that we, you know, make port, save the crew, look after everyone because this is going to happen. And Zuko comments it's nothing more important than capturing the Avatar. It's more important than any one person's well-being. So we go on, and this clearly offends the, I guess he'll be the first mate, or something along those lines. I'm not sure. I guess he might, maybe count as captain of the ship, but yeah, I guess he'd be captain of the ship, and then Iroh and Zuko are above, whatever. Anyway, so, we'll call him the captain, then questions, you know, how bad Zuko is, how he only cares about himself, and how, you know, basically calls him out, and they're about to fight, and Iroh breaks it up. Because Iroh's the best. But it's interesting to see Zuko get triggered by what he was talking about, being called selfish and only caring about himself and those sort of things. And then we go into their backstories. So basically, Aang tells his backstory about the air temple, and Iroh comes across some of the crew sitting around a table complaining about Zuko, and he gives them the story of what happened to Zuko. So we get back and forth flashbacks. So, before I start, Appa being docked like a ship at the shipyard is really funny, where he's just at the wharf. Just put that in there. Anyway, and then the plot is, so, Aang was told early that he was the Avatar because the monks sensed there could be war coming, something serious, which we all know to be true. And once Aang is revealed to be the Avatar, the other kids distance themselves from him, thinking that, you know, if they play games, whatever team he's on is unfair, and those sort of things. He's becoming more and more separated from people, and the monks training him are getting more and more demanding, saying that he has to, you know, work harder, and his teacher, specifically, is trying to fight that, saying no, he needs to be a normal kid, he needs playtime, he needs downtime, and they're pushing him to train more. In the end, it's decided that Aang will be separated and sent to a different air temple, so he isn't around the distractions and the people's trying to stop him reaching his potential. Aang overhears this, and the pressure of the world... Oh, they've already put the pressure of the world on him, because they told him, too, that we're telling you early because we might need you to save the world. All of these things together mean that Aang gets scared, Aang feels all the pressure in the world, and he runs away. He runs away into a storm with Appa, and then we all know what happens from there. He freezes himself, and then he wakes up with Katara. 100 years have passed. Aang conveys this, saying that he feels like he did fail. He wasn't there when people needed him. The Avatar wasn't around, because he wasn't, you know, he couldn't live up to that. He was scared, basically. And, Katara tries to give him a talk that, you know, this, if you had have stayed, you don't know what would have happened, but chances are you would have been killed with the other Airbenders. And this is what's meant to be, she feels. And that even now, being the Avatar brings a lot of people hope, you know. Then we cross this with Zuko's story, where Zuko was an up-and-coming prince. He wants to, you know, he's gonna take over the kingdom one day. So he wants to sit in on council meetings, on war strategy meetings in the Fire Lord's chamber with all the generals. And initially he's rebuffed by the guards at the door, but Iroh says as long as you promise not to speak up and offend, you can come in, but don't say anything. So they're sitting around a table, and one general says that they will use a brand new set of troops to distract a strong earthbending contingent, and they'll most likely all be slaughtered and lost, but that will set up for an ambush from better, more trained Fire Nation people from the other side. Zuko takes absolute offense to this notion that, those people trust the nation they're in. You can't just sacrifice them like that, and outbursts. And the Fire Lord is incredibly upset at this, and they do the thing where they're hiding his face. I know they hide his face for ages. I feel like I've seen his face at some point, like on the internet, but don't remember it, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, so they keep his face hidden, but yeah, he's super pissed. And the only way to settle these arguments in Fire Nation is one of those, I cannot remember the name of it, but the fire duels, the, one-on-one martial arts and firebending duel. And Zuko sees the old man that he offended, apparently, and wasn't scared, and said, yep, we'll do it. And then they go to fight, and he turns around and realizes that because he was in the Fire Lord's chamber, it was the Fire Lord that took offense, so he's fighting his own father. He, of course, refuses. Not only would the Fire Lord destroy him, but also it's his dad. And he says he refuses. He's a humble kid, and he's a humble son, and he respects him, and he won't fight him. The Fire Lord takes offense to this, saying that it's weakness, and that the only way to learn will be punishment. And we cut off screen, but we get the idea. He burned half his face, and banished him. This enlightens the crew on the ship of, the only way he can recover his honor is to track down the Avatar. That's the mission he was given by the Fire Lord. Do this and you'll be allowed back in. And just as Katara says that Aang brings people hope, Iroh conveys that the Avatar brings Zuko hope. Hope that things can return to how they were, even though they never will. And we get a little contradiction, but a contradiction on purpose, where the boat is then struck by lightning and, everyone's in danger. The crew and Zuko and everyone rush out on deck and see the helmsman nearly falling from the top of the ship, and Zuko puts himself at risk to go and save him, as does the captain. And he realizes the error of his ways when he sees the Avatar, and rather than pressing them to chase it, he instead directs the ship and the crew to head to safety, which would be the eye of the storm, so that they get out of the crazy weather and everyone's safe. The idea being that he initially said it's not worth, no one's life is more important than capturing the Avatar, and of course you find out with what he called out in the chamber that he really does care. And this is another example that when people were really in danger, it brought him back to his senses, and he took them to safety. And that's pretty much it. They were in safety because the old lady, whose husband was the fisherman, is still out trapped in the storm, and that means Sokka is too. And Aang and Katara go to rescue them. They do, but the waves are incredibly huge, and Appa is taken under with everyone on board, and Aang taps into his Avatar state and uses a giant air bubble around them to let Appa basically fly underwater, and they fly out into the sky and escape. So they come up right next to Zuko's ship, and he still decides to let them go because he needs to look after his crew, and they're in the middle of a crazy storm, so what are you going to do? That's the plot, but there's a lot to dive into with this. So first thing we're getting into is Aang's guilt, and it was a thing I knew was an element, and it makes sense, but it's also the pressure of expectation. You become a legend, and, suddenly you're separated from everyone who you once knew, everyone who was your friend. And then, the separation from his father figure, no, can't do that, can't be a normal kid, can't play games, gotta train. And, he ran away under the pressure, and that makes a lot of sense, but when he realized that's the last thing he remembers, that's literally ran away, and, an hour later he was trapped in the ice, and that was it. That guilt of letting everyone down, of seeing how bad the world is, and feeling like it's his fault. What else? We get Zuko's motivation too. I do like, again, he's not just a villain. He doesn't, throw away lives and not care about his crew or any of that. Like, he really is a good person. And, yeah, you get the whole, they're doing the parallel between Aang and Zuko about, the pressure put on them, what's expected of them, needing to find a bit of hope in their lives. And, and you got a lot of cool things that, like, I knew were a thing, but, get to see them for the first time. I knew Zuko got burned by his dad. And I know the crazy girl in the audience who enjoyed it in front of Iroh. I know she becomes someone. She's like, you see her in memes and that. She's like a crazy murder person, which is interesting. Got to see her. I hope she comes into the story soon because, some psychos are fun. And then what else? Oh, the lightning bending. Iroh bends lightning. And I knew that was a thing that firebenders could do, or like they discover they can do it, or I know it's a thing. I've seen imagery of it. Like, yeah, they can. I don't know how that works. Like, that's not fire. I mean, it's heat, but it's whatever. But sure. But the first instance of that, and he seemed confused by it. But then again, I don't know if he was confused that it worked, like he's never done it before, or that he got it to work, or that he wasn't even really trying to do it. It was instinct, and it just happened. I don't know. But yeah, Iroh is really great. What else? The only thing I'll say is because we were going back and forth between 2 framing devices and 2 backstories. So we got the campfire and the gathered around the table on the ship, and the 2 backstories and ad breaks. Like, it was very choppy. The editing on this episode was super choppy. I actually feel like, if you had the ad breaks in there, I might have spaced it out better, because it's just more cuts to black, when they're collected. It really feels like we're just jumping back, forth between, the 4 different settings, and then the 5th at the end to help Sokka and that. So yeah, that is a criticism, but it's really hard to do this otherwise. Also, I really like the Aang's dream sequence where Katara's flying on giant Momo. That's great. That's a great visual. That's a very psychedelic, almost visual that I really appreciated. It's really funny. Yeah, Appa being docked like a ship is incredibly funny. What else? Oh, the best joke was the old lady. Go save my husband. He's out in the storm. Alright, I'm going. Katara, I'm coming with you. I'm staying here, says the old lady. Nice. Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I when I was watching it, I thought this discussion's going to take forever. I'm just going to have to talk forever about all these motivations and themes. But really, it is pretty straightforward and simple, but I like that we're covering it. And, one of the main things about this show is Zuko's growth, not just the others. And seeing where he comes from, and his story, and his guilt. And, well, not guilt, but his mission, and his hopes, and what the Avatar means to him, and what his moralities are. I see the next episode is called The Blue Spirit. I know who that is, like, sorry, but I do. But, I think that's an interesting aspect to take on. Like, yeah, it's very interesting. And, the hiding of the Fire Lord's face and all that, we get to see that, and also how powerful he is, and how he, if he's at top, like, this is how he runs things. That's a very telling, what he even does to his own son. And the 1,000 toys test, or, thousands of toys test, where they know it's the Avatar because he picked the same 4 toys out of thousands of options. That's really interesting. There's no way it's not completely foolproof. Like, I'm sure some kid could randomly pick those 4. It's unlikely. I mean, by putting thousands, you're really making it unlikely, but it's very, very interesting. He picks them because they're familiar, because all the Avatars picked them. Yeah, it's really cool. I think that's actually all I have to say this episode. Even though there's a lot in here, and it was quite dense, and there was a lot of story, it really was things we sort of already know, but it was sort of confirmed and explored and brought up. So it's very interesting. Also, I like Sokka just jumping at the first job that was in front of him. Like, hey, you said we need money. Job right here. I'm just going to do that. But yeah, we get more of Aang's character. Like I said, with the Great Divide episode, despite the fact it wasn't that great of an episode, seeing his leadership and his problem solving on the fly was something he needs. And, his little white lie and stuff. And there's add to his character. And this as well. It's bringing me around on his character more. It's not like I dislike him. He's just my least favorite of them. But, these episodes definitely help. And, Zuko was on his ever-growing path to become one of the most popular characters around. And you can see why. I think that's everything for now. Very, very fun episode, very interesting episode. But that means that we're done for today. So until next time, remember that if you want to find out if your kid's going to be the Avatar, Christmas is going to consist of thousands of toys. Yeesh. Anyway, my name is Rigger. I hope you had a wonderful day. And I hope I did alright.